Greetings, welcome back to Man Cave Meals. Tonight we're going to try something a little different. Tomorrow is Mom's annual barbecue dinner where she invites all her friends. We've got somewhere between 60 and 70 people coming, and I've got 8 Boston butts that have got to be cooked, and it's about 73 to 75 pounds of meat. And what we're going to do tonight is see if we can cook all 8 of these on the Big Joe. I'm going to set it up a little differently and show you how it's working, so let's get started. Okay folks, we're going to get started here. I'm going to show you how we're going to do this. I've got my firebox in the Kamado Joe Big Joe loaded up with charcoal and peachwood chunks, and I have taken the fire ring out. As you can see, all we have in here is the firebox. So I'm going to light up one of my Kamado Joe starters here in the middle and get the fire going, and once we get that going, I'll come back and show you the next step of how we're going to put this together to cook 8 butts. Okay, now that we've got our fire going, I'm going to set my heat deflector rack right down on the firebox with the heat deflector in place and a couple of drip pans on the deflector. And you're going to want to check here and make sure that you've got even clearance all the way around on that, because you don't want to stifle too much of the airflow in any given side of the grill for this. And then the next thing we're going to do is set the Big Joe grill right on the rack, just like you normally would for any type of cook. So what we're going to do now is let the grill come up to temperature. I'm going to be cooking between 250 275 for this, and we're going to come back and we're going to put our first 4 butts on, and then I'll show you how we're going to set the second rack up. Okay, I've got my grill up to temp, so we're ready to put the first 4 butts on, and I have separated out the 4 largest butts in the set. Each of these 4 weigh over 10 pounds. I'm going to set my fire bricks in here because we're going to use that to prop up the second rack, and then we're going to set each of these 4 butts on the grill, hoping they'll all fit nicely. We may have to do a little bit of shimmying to make this stuff work like we want. We want a little bit of space between each one at a minimum. So there's the third one. It's going to be quite tight in here. We'll make it work. And number 4 on the bottom rack. So we've got each of these guys positioned in here. Separate them out just a little bit, and I'm gonna put a temperature probe into the smallest butt that is on this bottom rack. I'm going to use my Maverick ET732, and this guy right here is the smallest, and the bone is on this end. So I'm going to get right down in the middle, come in from the back side here, get deep down in there. That's going to work. I am going to use my Barbecue Guru Party Q temperature controller on this as well, and I'm going to want to measure the temperature from right in the middle here, which is going to be underneath the second rack. So we will be back. I'm going to prepare 4 more of these, and we'll get the second rack on. Okay folks, we've got 4 more butts ready to go. So what we're going to do here is lift the lid up, and we're going to set our Weber cooking grate right on top here and put 4 more butts on. We're going to try to stagger those a little bit over the ones that are already there. really going to be tight in there. Okay, we're going to have to turn those a little bit to make these guys fit better. Want to try to have a little space between them, and that's another thing you can remember. As the temperature comes up and as these cook, they're going to shrink, and that's going to open up space in there. So the next thing I want to do is get my temperature probe, my pit probe for the ET732 located, and I'm going to want it right down here in the middle. So I'm going to clip it in place right down in the middle where it's not touching any meat, and then we'll close this guy up and let it cook, see how long it's going to take. Alrighty folks, things are going a little bit better than expected time wise here. We are 11 hours into this cook, and I just took the first butt off. One of the ones on the bottom was ready, so I'm gonna have to put these things in a holding pattern for dinner tonight. So I'll be taking these off one at a time and foiling them and wrapping them up, and I'm gonna hold them in the oven at 160 or so until I put them in the cooler to rest. So we'll be back at dinner time when we start to pull this stuff.
No, everything's done. We're drinking out of cans. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Don't look up for a second. Teresa here does not know what barbecue is.
Oh yeah, she's getting ready to find out.
So she's getting ready to find out. Maryland's friend Teresa. So she's getting ready to find out what good. Now she's from New Jersey. They have barbecue up there, but no. That's it.
They don't have reason.
You don't have this.
I thought barbecue is like hamburger.
So you're gonna find out what good. This is so good. Oh my God.
It's like chicken, right? No. Okay, I don't eat chicken.
It's not chicken.
Yes.
Where are you?
I'm Teresa.
You just need to tell me what it's like. I would say Teresa. I don't want to just bring it to you and say, here, yes. But I'm going to tell you like four.
Barbecue. Barbecue. Yeah. Oh, that's, yeah. I love watching it.
It's the best barbecue I've ever eaten. That's what I made it. That's what I made him give me for Christmas.
Oh really?
I told him.
Oh, is it Memorial Day?
No, we just had one last year.
That's good.
Your wonderful son is going to go back to No. One plate all you get.
I got one.
Have a little bit.
Okay, well, that's all said and done. I just wanted to take a minute here at the end to give you a few comments about what we've just done. 8 butts on one grill is a lot unless you're using commercial grade grill. I do not recommend doing this. The grill's not designed to run the way we just ran it, and it came out okay. The meat was delicious. It was as good as any other butts I've ever made. The Kamado Joe, Big Joe here, did a wonderful job of cooking for me. Generated a lot of grease. Luckily these things are self-cleaning and I can burn it out, you know, just by running the grill up hot. There's a couple things I might do differently if I ever had to do this over again, but the airflow, you know, like I said, I don't remember if I mentioned it earlier in the video, but I had to add charcoal to this cook at the 12-hour mark, and you know, I sort of expected I might have to do that because the way we had it set up, we had really confine the charcoal in the firebox by taking the fire ring out and moving the deflector plates right down over the firebox. That, you know, cut a good bit of air volume out of there. So the other thing, you know, I said I was going to run this with the temperature controller. That did not work out either. You know, my pit was running steady at about 235 or 240, rock solid, when I was ready to go to bed last night. And I took the controller and put it on there, and the controller with this configuration that I've shown you here actually had a cooling effect on the grill. It brought my temperatures down. I'm not really sure why that is or why that happened here, but that's what happened. So I just took the controller back off and let it run its own game all night, and it ran fine. The first butt came off after I can't remember what time I said, maybe 11 hours. The last butt came off at about the 15-hour mark, and oddly enough, the first three butts to come off of this cook were from the bottom rack with the larger butts. I don't really, you know, I know if it was hotter down there or if that meat was just gonna naturally cook faster. But this is also a good example of, you know, different cuts of meat, or the same cut of meat, it's gonna take different amounts of time to cook. They're rarely gonna finish up identically each time you do them. So this was a fun experiment, and like I said, I want you to understand this is an experiment. This is not something I would recommend. I doubt very seriously Kamado Joe would recommend doing what we just did either. But, you know, barbecue's like any other hobby. You know, you can experiment, you can do what you want to do and try things out, just as long as you're prepared to pay the consequences if it doesn't work out. I obviously had a backup plan in case I had a catastrophic failure of some sort during this cook. I was going to be able to move to another grill or move to my drum smoker. This meat was important that I have it ready on time, and I really should not have experimented on a critical cook, but I did, and we got lucky. Everything came out fine. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this experimental cook, and we'll see you around. Till next time, Man Cave Meals.